it is with regret. I mean, as you realize all these things of what you have done for your actions of whatever happened, of when I left the house, family house, the circumstances under which it happened, not realizing at the age of 21 or 23 or 30, the impulsive decisions which a man takes affects the lives of how many people around you, especially your wife, your children who need you at that time.
एक शेर मुझे याद आ रहा है, जिस दिन से चला हूँ मेरी मंजिल पे नज़र है, जिस दिन से चला हूँ मेरी मंजिल पे नज़र है, आँखों ने कभी मील का पत्थर नहीं देखा. जब भी मैं राजन लाल के बारे में सुनता हूँ, उनसे मिलता हूँ, तो ये शेर बशीर बद्र का मुझे जहन में आता है. कमाल की लाइफ है और ये बुक आई डिड इट माई वे, जिसकी हम आज बात कर रहे हैं, विथ मी मिस्टर राजन लाल एंड मिस्टर निखिल लाल. और टैगलाइन भी मुझे आज मालूम पड़ी है, स्टोरी ऑफ लव, लॉस, regret and wisdom. Nikhil, welcome to the show. Rajan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Son of Mr. Rajan Lall.
Yeah.
You know, what's your first memory, like childhood memory or dad wali memory क्या है आपके दिमाग में? होता है ना, like we all remember like first thing about dad going to office, business, shop. What is your memory of Rajan sir?
First memory, I think, is I was very little, must have been about 5 years old, and dad always brought a lot of gifts.
Okay.
For like a birthday. So dad, it was my birthday. I had lots of kids in the house, and then suddenly, the door opened, and like, people were coming in with gifts. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then dad comes in, and it's like, so that was like a very clear memory with when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, because we were not living together.
Okay.
So whenever I used to see dad, it was once in a while. So that was a memory that.
So were you in the same city or different?
Yeah, same city.
Same city,
yeah.
You were born in 78.
Okay.
And I think I left the house
when I was 0.
In 80.
6 months.
In 80.
Okay.
I left the house in 80. And so basically, Nikhil's childhood has been without father
Yeah.
being there for him. And my book is basically it's all about regrets about not being there for both my sons and having left them when they were young. But as he said, his memory of me is very, very faint.
Yeah.
And I remember one episode of Nikhil when I used to be very short-tempered. And I used to shout a lot at home with my wife, with my elder son, and very short-tempered. And my memory of Nikhil as a child was he used to hide behind his mom and tremble. You remember that?
No.
He used to actually shiver because he was so scared. So those traumatic childhood memories always stay with you.
True.
And it is with regret. I mean, as you realize all these things of what you have done for your actions of whatever happened, of when I left the house, family house, the circumstances under which it happened, not realizing at the age of 21 or 23 or 30, the impulsive decisions which a man takes affects the lives of how many people around you, especially your wife, your children who need you at that time. And I wasn't there for my children, to be honest with you. I wasn't there for them during their growing up years or anything. And it was unfortunate that I couldn't be with them or even come and meet them for some reasons, because the rift between my ex-wife and me was so high that there was a major clash of egos, as well as a lot of other issues which happened. So I couldn't even meet them or be with them, and whenever I used to get gifts or clothes with them, she used to throw them out, I remember. And warn them that don't touch anything that the father gives. These are memories which I remember, and I'm sure they remember. But they were too young to realize or retaliate, so they just lived with them, and she brought them up. Actually, I wasn't there for them during their growing up years or their childhood years, and that is one of my greatest regrets in life, which I have mentioned in my book. But I would like Nikhil to talk to you about what his experiences were that during his growing years when I was not around.
Yeah, I mean, when you see kids around in school and parent-teacher meeting and other kids talking about their fathers, do you remember those days? What was going on in your head at that time?
I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't really miss Dad as much in those days because my mom did a fantastic job. She was both my mom and my dad. She was very available. She was working, but she was also very much with us all the time. And but yeah, in those days, when you go between 5 to 15, not really that much. I'm like, okay, I met Dad, kind of spent time with him on weekends once in a while when we used to have the opportunity. But other than that, there was not like I missed a father. I had tons of friends. I had a full house all the time.
Yeah.
Mom was always there. Brother was always there. I think the time of missing was when I was in college, when I was away from home, and then you have a chance to introspect about what's back at home and who's there and who is this dad. When you're 16, 17 years old, that's when things started to get a little bit more interesting because you start to think about the fact that you actually didn't have a dad growing up. So what is he like? All the things you've heard about him from your mom, are they true? Are they not true? Give him an opportunity to try and find out for yourself what kind of a person he is, make your own decision and opinion on him. And those are the reasons that was like much later when you're 17, 18, especially in the United States in college.
But were you growing up with some anger or hate, or you're okay, completely like neutral about him when you were a kid?
No, there was no anger or hate because I didn't see all the things that maybe my brother saw.
Okay.
My brother was 7, I was 0. He's 7 years older than me. So he between 0 to 7, he must have seen stuff would happen with my dad and my mom, which I didn't see. And I think I was lucky that I was not able to see that. And that's why when I look back, I don't have any like super negative memories. Yes, he was angry once in a while. He would lose his temper once in a while at home. But I've never seen like something so bad that maybe my brother today has, can tell you lots more than I can tell you about that.
So what is your memory about both of them? Like he's saying he was 7 years older than him. As a father, you were away. What was going on in your head, and how are they different, like both of them? Nikhil?
They're chalk and cheese.
Okay. Okay.
You see, when my elder son Amit was born, and we got married in 69, and he was born in 71. And I remember that I was too young. I didn't realize the importance of a fatherhood or the way I see Nikhil now. He's just become a father again the second time a month back. The way he's brought up his elder daughter and Karan one Aneri and Anoki. The way the husband and wife take care of their child now, which I'm seeing visually now. I don't remember that because I never did it. So they were just there. He was born, that's it. I went and held him, met my wife in hospital, and I was out. So that was it. And he just grew up. And then after a gap of 7 years, Nikhil was born. And that was it again. But because our relationship wasn't very great at that time, the importance of together bringing up the children is something that I have missed in life, for which, of course, she is not to be blamed, I am to be blamed, because I was immature, emotional, impulsive, and I took decisions not with my brain or my heart, but thinking of other things. I was fond of the good life, I was fond of parties, I was fond of going out, I was fond of women. So I did all that thing not realizing the importance of the children and the family and keeping the unit together. That was something that I didn't do, and that affected the whole unit, my children, my wife, my father, my mother, everybody, my friends, everything. And I realized that in 80, when I left the home and moved into a very small little apartment at Pali Hill, all my friends, social circle friends, whom we used to party with every time when we were at my house at Churchgate, would see me coming and their wives would hold their husband's hand and turn them around the other way and say, let's go from here. So they all ostracized me. And the wives would pull away the husband's hand when they came to greet me, and they just walked away. So you were completely ostracized at that time from that society, that friend circle which I had created in my first marriage. So when I moved out and stayed at this little garage come home which we had, which I think Nikhil remember. It was a small 400 square feet place at Pali Hill in Green Acres, where Mahesh Bhatt stayed on the 4th floor and I was on the ground floor, and he became my close friend because he wasn't doing great financially, and I used to help him out, and we used to meet and have free drinks and free liquor because
those days Kulbhushan Kharbanda, Shafi Namdar.
Those days Kulbhushan Kharbanda, Shafi Namdar, Anupam Kher, Dilip Tahil, Anil Kapoor, Sanju, Mark Zubair, Dipti Naval used to all haunt my little 400 square feet house. Not for me, because they used to get free drinks. So my second girlfriend, whom called wife, I had married converting to Muslim, Sabina, used to get 2 bottles of Black Label from her flight, and these guys used to be like bees to a pot and come and finish that because of free drinks. They all broke. All of them were struggling. So those 5-7 years which I spent at Pali Hill were, I think, one of my best years because I had a great time. But not realizing the damage that I had done and left behind. So coming back to the children and the first wife, there were a lot of, to be honest with you, differences between us because I had known her for only about 6-8 months, and she was studying at the Nirmala Niketan, and she was from Kanpur, and I was in college and having a wonderful time with the Sangeet Mandal, the friends, Vinod Mehra and the whole gang. We used to have parties, a lot of girlfriends, stuff like that. We used to have a great time. So when you're doing in that state of mind, suddenly you see this lovely, slim-looking, beautiful girl come who looks exactly like Sharmila Tagore. She was a carbon copy of Sharmila Tagore. She used to make that buffa and all that. And you know, when you're going through this rigmarole of so many women around you who are there not for anything but lusting around for them, you see this nice Hindustani girl with a buffa come in a sari and say, oh my God, this is what I want to take home to mom. So we got friendly. I was working for Siva in those days. We got friendly through a common friend. And we started seeing each other. And we knew each other for about 6 months. And After that, I had to make a decision because she said, I'm getting married, I'm engaged. I said, no, you can't get married. How can you get married? I mean, my ego was hurt. So she said, well, make up your mind. At the age of 21, I fought with my parents, family, everybody. I want to get married. So are you mad? You just even started life. You just got your first job for $1,500 with Siva. How can you get married? I don't know. She's going to get married. I'm going to marry her. I made all hell broke loose. They listened to me and we got married in 69. Just knowing her 6 months. I think that was the biggest mistake I had made for not knowing her for long enough. She was very nice, very homely, excellent, everything. But things went wrong subsequently after that. And a lot of stuff happened, which I was unhappy about, which she was unhappy about. And things started turning bad, and then they moved us to our own house. We moved to another house next door, which was my grandparents' house in Gupta Mahal. And we moved there and stayed separately. Another reason also why I took a decision to get married was, subconsciously, which nobody knows, is that my father and me, we never got along. We were always at loggerheads. I never talked to him. And all I used to do is get a lot of beating, a lot of suspicions, a lot of talk, a lot of shouting. We never looked at each other and talked to each other, I think, for most of my life. And I was fed up of living in that whole atmosphere. And said, तुम अलग जब होगे तब तुम्हारी शादी होगी. मैंने कहा यार ये it's a nice way to get out of this place.
Correct.
So that was one of the reasons why I said if I get married, I will have a separate house and I'll be away from this whole atmosphere. So I got married. That was one reason. The second was, see, when you're with a lot of women together and you're just having a nice time and you meet this girl who's very simple, very nice, you suddenly feel, this is the woman whom you want to be with. But you don't really know the woman, the family, the background, the mother. So that all came at the marriage and after the marriage. And I realized that the family was nice, very decent, come from a very decent family from Kanpur. Mother was good. But let me tell you here today in my interview that if you ever want to marry a girl, you must meet the mother first.
That's what you used to always tell me when I was choosing my
Always. And that's the lesson I learned when I met her mother. I said, oh my God, that was a warning signal. But it was too late. And I hope that, because, mostly girls tend to be like their mothers when they grow older and turn out to be like them. So when I met my mother-in-law, she was, God bless her soul, she's no more. It was a different story. And I found that she was more or less on her lines of behavior and character. But the damage had been done. We didn't have anything in common. We used to, couldn't discuss anything on a mental level, on an emotional level or whatever. But it was all there. So I started drifting apart. So that's the time when, during the 69 to 80, when Nikhil was born in 78, I had already we had actually drifted apart. For a lot of reasons. Some of them mine, some of them hers. But in 80, when I met somebody, you moved on and you said you want to move to the house. And then the whole circumstance in the way it all happened was very unpleasant. And I moved out of the house and bought this place in Pali Hill where I could be. And we moved in there. But I think my first, Aruna didn't give me a divorce for 21 years, something like that.
20 something.
She didn't agree to give me a divorce for nearly 21 years. And it was very frustrating. And there's a lot of stuff that happened during those years which I think I mentioned some of it in the book, but cannot express it because it was very, very ugly. Some of them they had to face, the children had to face. Some of it my elder son had to face because he was more conscious of what was happening. He was younger. But that affected my elder son a lot. And she had basically poisoned both the children against me of what kind of a person I am and stuff like that. And you know, children are children. They're like sponges, they absorb. They don't think. So I became the monster. Or I became the bad guy, so to speak, because she was taking care of them, she was schooling them, educating them, being with them, and I wasn't there. So they all grew up with the thought that I am the villain or the bad guy, whatever you want to call it. It was with that thought that the children grew up. And my elder son got into bad habits of alcohol, smoking, drinking, whatever else he could do. He just went berserk. And I'm to blame for that today, because he is such a good boy and a brilliant boy at heart. He has a very big heart. He has a very soft heart, very soft-hearted boy. But he grew up with a hatred, which I think anybody like me and my father. I mean, I grew up with hating my father because of all the beating and all the shouting and all the suspicion. He never trusted me, he never talked to me, never talked to me as a father. And I did the same with him. So it was history repeating itself again, not wanting to do it, but consciously, but happening. And I actually have, to a great extent, responsible for what he became or what he is today. And there is a lot of regret. A lot of it was his fault also, because he tried to take it out in that form because there's no other outlet for him. But we're at a stage where we're absolutely on neutral grounds now, and he's got his business which I've given him there, and he's happening, and I'm at peace and he's at peace, and that's where it stands with him today. But I wish him all the best, and I hope he takes care of his health. Coming to Nikhil, when he grew up, I wanted him to get away from that whole atmosphere. And the only way to get him out of there was he wanted to go to America. So I said, you go to America, beta.
No, you didn't say.
I didn't say?
I'll tell you, let me
Okay.
correct you over here.
Yeah. Please. Okay, you can.
So I first asked Dad that, can I go to America? Dad's immediate response was, for what? You're going to stay here, you're going to be my business. I have a business here, join the business. He was with Varsha Desai.
That was Varsha.
Yeah, at that time. So Varsha Auntie, she's a lovely lady, by the way. She and me had a generally good relationship. So I asked her, and I said, Varsha Auntie, this is what I want to do. She says, don't worry, I'll talk to him. Varsha Auntie convinced Dad
Yes, you're right.
that this is good fun, Nikhil. Get him out of here.
So you wanted to move to US?
I wanted to get out of my
Okay.
situation.
It's
Not
like
just for studies, but to...
It's like I wanted to get out of my parents'
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
Really
same.
good. He wanted to get out of that atmosphere because with
Amit was, for me, it was difficult. Like,
difficult.
he was drinking. It was a difficult situation at home. It was volatile. Things were not good at home. And, because of that, it was a very negative atmosphere. And I needed to get out of that negative atmosphere. And I remember deciding at the age of grade 8 that I said, grade 12, I'm out of here. And I started working on my own. I got my own college admission done in HR college from 10th because my mother was taking care of Amit with his alcohol problems. And I got my own admission done for the United States, where I got scholarships. So I didn't care where I went. I just thought, okay, if I can get most amount of scholarship, that dad will agree upon because it's not so much money. So, okay. So whatever most amount of scholarship I got, I said, Dad, I got scholarship here. Okay, go. And that's how this whole thing happened. But it was based on the fact that...
But you're right, I remember.
Varshanti, he was very key.
Who convinced me because both her children were studying abroad.
Correct.
Her son and daughter were studying abroad.
Correct.
And they were being educated abroad. And when he said that and he told Varsha, then she talked to me and convinced me that it's good for him to get out of that whole situation and let him go. Let him, jile apni zindagi. Nothing,
But sorry, coming back to the college days, you told me that you started missing him or thinking about your dad when he went to college.
In the US.
In the US. You remember the day, first time when you spoke to him, you told him about everything, you poured your heart. You remember that day?
No, that happened much later.
Much later.
Yeah, in college and all, no. We
But what happened when you started missing him or remembering him? Did you write to him or what?
No, I didn't write to him or anything. I think it was after, during college.
During college, when you came home, I think.
I came home and we also had conversations on the phone. I remember, I used to, my first, this is an interesting story about Dad.
About it?
When I called Dad.
About your car?
First spring break. I called Dad. All my friends are going for spring break to Miami or something. So I called Dad. I said, Dad, all my friends are going to Miami for spring break and all. And, I'm also going. So good, have fun. So I said, yeah, I need $1,000 or something, He said, oh, really? I said, I thought that you get jobs, in Rochester and your college. I said, yeah, but, I haven't got a job. He said, oh, get a job and go next year. So that's what I did. I got a job and I got my first, dishwashing job. And I collected money so I can go to the next year because he was very clear. He's like, listen, I'm paying for your education. You want to go have a good time? You work, earn money, and have a good time with your money.
So you didn't spend money to compensate for the days you missed with him. You were still strict with him.
Not really. I was strict with him because I wanted him to maybe at that time make him realize the importance of money and working and earning your money.
Yeah.
That the education of that. I really clearly remember one incident which I must narrate to you. He rang me up and said, Dad, I want to buy a car.
Yeah.
You remember that? So I said, no, that's not my part of my deal, give you a car. So you work for it, buy a car. So he said, okay. And then he did some odd jobs wherever he worked in the library or worked as a waiter. Took extra jobs up and everything. And I remember going for his graduation with Varsha. Yeah. And he had bought this, Ford
Probe GT.
Ford Probe
Third hand.
He had bought this car. It was a off-white beige color car.
No, it was a white color car. It had pop-up lights.
Lights and all that.
But it was like 20 years old.
Yeah. And he said, Dad, I bought this car. I said, how much do you pay for it? He said, $1,200.
That's right.
It's very good. So I banged the car. I said, very good. Hey, Dad, what are you doing? Don't hit it, it'll get damaged. I remember that very clearly. He started cleaning. Dad, don't. What are you doing? It's my car, it'll get damaged. So I realized that he has value for that because he's earned that.
For sure.
But you knew
come back to Dubai.
Okay.
When he came and joined me, I bought him a brand new Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
That's quite a
the
job.
Prado.
The Prado or the Land Cruiser?
Prado.
Black Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
And he must have banged it up about 25 times while parking, while closing. No value for it. Absolutely no value. I said, Nikhil, you took care of your car when I touched it like this. No, Dad, it's okay. It's happened, this happened, that happened, that. No value for it. I said, see, this is the difference between earning your car and getting a car. So that time I told him, I said, this is the reason why you have to value when you earn something, you get it. That was my whole purpose behind it. But
yeah, that's something that, that story about, getting the money for the Florida trip, Miami trip. I think it's very clear to me in my mind because, it started my path of getting a job. My first job was a dishwasher. I washed dishes, and then I was a stir fry guy, so all very basic jobs, but it really built a lot of character, really built today who I am, because I would have not met the people I met, had the bosses I had, learned the examples of them through those years that today made me who I am also. So I think the job, the value of money, all of those things would have not happened if you would have just given me the $1,000 and said, enjoy. So I look back and I'm like, I'm glad he said no to me.
But when he was making films, all parties, he's a big fan of cinema and music. You knew about what he's doing, his connections, his life.
Sure.
Were you into films? Did
Not
you
at
know
all.
that your dad is making big films?
No, I think because it's an interesting psychological question because he was so into Hindi movies and film and all that. I kind of made the association that has taken my father away from me. So that kind of was always something that I never liked. So I was always kind of against Bollywood.
Okay.
And I never liked Bollywood because it was something to me was that took away my father from my childhood. So that actually got me away from Bollywood, and then I got into electronic music and Hollywood, and that was more, my scene, and that's why I got into this scene. And I till today don't watch any Bollywood movies at all.
This is the big loss that happened because of
yeah.
for Hindi cinema. Ek audience come again.
No, but this happened accidentally in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right? But before that, I was handling my business. I started ITL and, I was running ITL very seriously. And that was my main source of bread and butter, not the films. Films just happened. It was in my DNA from childhood. Films was in my DNA. It was like dormant, my DNA from childhood. Because I was exposed to Bollywood from the age of 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Because I used to see, like you're saying, you used to see my parents throw lavish parties. And my mama was J.C. Jain, who was General Manager Times of India. He's the one who started Filmfare magazine, Filmfare Awards, and, Femina, Illustrated Weekly, Screen. And he was a kingmaker in Bollywood in those days. There's nobody who was not at his doorstep or at his beck and call. And the party that used to happen at our house and at his house, I've seen that as a child growing. I attended the first Filmfare Award as a child. I mean, my memory of it is so clear. And over the years, I used to see my parents having a ball. I mean, they had no time for us.
Yeah.
They were busy with their own life. The only people who took care of us and him were my Tayaji, Mr. Bhalla, who was my second father who lived with us, and my Bhabiji, who was his wife. She was more of a mother to me than my own mother because they didn't have time for us, for me and my brother. But this was in my DNA dormant. And in 90s, it so happened by sheer chance that I got an opportunity to get into Bollywood. And that is something which is another story completely, which we will discuss in another day. But coming back to Nikhil and Amit, when he kind of, this episode which I told you about, his buying his own car and then everything, when he finished his education, he told me, he said, Dad, I want to work in America. So I told him, and that's the time when I was moving to Dubai, I think it was in 2001. And I told him, and I said, I need you here, please come. I need you here. And I always appreciate that he listened to me and he came.
He agreed.
He agreed to come. He could have said, no, Dad, I'm staying here, I'm working here or making a life here. And knowing what his father was, still agreeing to come to be with me is something that I appreciate about this boy. And staying on with me for the last 24 years and tolerating me.
I was coming to that. When you came back from America, got Land Cruiser, started working with him, I'm sure that's when you started knowing him. Then there was
Actually,
fresh
that's
life.
the reason I came back. Like, honestly, Dad came to me, he said, I want you to come to Dubai. And I was like, where's Dubai? And he's like, it's next to Iraq. And I said, that's not coming. And it was, because to me, I don't even know this region. Like, it was completely foreign to me. But it was the yearning of like finding out who my dad was. Because this 4 years when I was in college, it was something gnawing at me for a long time, just trying to find out, like, yeah, I know who dad is, and I know what mom has said. I know he has this Bollywood thing going on. He's got this business, which is very successful. But really, I don't know who he is as an individual, as a person. And it was something that was really eating at me to say, like, I got to know this guy somehow. I have to find my own opinion of him. Is he good? Is he bad? I don't know. And by that time, when I was finishing college, it became extremely evident to me that I needed to know. I didn't have a choice. It was not like I couldn't not know. I had to make this decision to be with him, not because I wanted to be with his business or, it was to get to know him as an individual. Because I feel like I will be 50 years old one day and I would have looked back and I would have not known my dad. And that would have been a big hole in me. And that's something that I wanted to make sure that doesn't happen. So I came back. It was selfish because I wanted to know for my purpose that who is my father. Because obviously apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So, I'd like to know how I will be. And is this guy all the things that I've heard, or is there more to him? And that's the reason I came back, and I got to know him as a father, as a businessman, as a mentor, good, bad, all of those things.
Then your thoughts changed after you started working with him, knowing him. What happened after that in your head?
Yeah, there's a lot of change. There was a lot of negative things that I'd heard about him. He's this way, he's that way. And sure, some of those things were not, absolutely untrue. Some of them were true. But there were also certain things about him that I didn't know. For instance, his complete honesty in business, his complete integrity in business, his ability to handshake and then always make sure that he didn't need a contract to confirm it. He did it because I said that to him.
Given a word.
I'm giving him my word. And I've seen him do that time and time again. And then I've also seen him be backstabbed in business, with very clear quarters, because I was with him in the business. And then it kind of like unfazed him. And I was just like, what? How is it unfazing you? Like this person just stabbed you in the back who you really helped. And I saw how you helped this person. And he was just with total calm. He was like, well, happens in life, And I was just like, wow, that's something that I don't know if I would be able to do. So those things you kind of learn about him and you kind of like respect. And you're like, yeah, he's got negatives, but there's a lot of positive. And I'm the type of person who likes to focus on the positive. And the negatives, everybody has. You, me, we all have negatives. But I think it's important that we focus on our positives and try and imbibe those qualities. And that's really what's important. And that's how I got to know him. And I learned a lot. Today, the business man that I am is a product of him. His integrity. Even till today, he corrects me. He's like, what are you doing? Like, this is wrong. You did this in business. You can't do this. Doesn't matter if you don't earn as much money. Keep the relationship. The money is not important. It's the relationship that's important. And that's what he's always kept hitting at me and making me understand. And that's those are things that, I look back now and I'm like, I'm glad I get to know him because I've learned a lot from him.
So Nikhil, I want to talk to you about this title, I Did It My Way, and also how much are you like your dad, but in the next episode, okay?
Sure.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.